Your Excellency, the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, the Speaker, House of Representatives, Honorable Yakubu Dogara, the Chief Justice of the Federation, Justice Walter Oningwe, here represented, state governors, President, principal officers, and members of the National Assembly, members of the Federal Executive Council, the National Chairman, All Progressive Congress, Chief Odigi Oyegun, party officials here present, senior government officials, ladies and gentlemen. I am here to present 218 budget proposals. Before presenting the budget, let me thank all of you distinguished and honorable members of the National Assembly, and indeed all Nigerians, for your support and prayers for my full recovery while I was on medical vacation. I am very pleased to address this joint session of the National Assembly on the revenue and expenditure estimates and related matters of the federal government of Nigeria for 2018 fiscal year. The 2018 budget will consolidate on the achievements of previous budgets and deliver on Nigeria's economic recovery and growth plan 2018 to 2020. 2017 so far has been a year of uncertainty on many fronts across the world, whether it is Brexit, the crisis in Korean Peninsula, or indeed the political uncertainty in key oil-producing nations of the Middle East and South America. We can all agree that these developments have in one way or another impacted Nigeria's economic fortunes. By all accounts, 2018 is expected to be a year of better outcomes. The tepid economic recovery is expected to pick up pace, and the global political terrain is expected to stabilize. The International Monetary Fund is anticipating global GDP growth of 3.7% in 2018. Emerging markets and developing economies are expected to lead with GDP growth of 4.9%, while advanced economies are projected to grow at a slower rate of 2%. Nigeria's journey out of the recent recession was a revealing one. We heard many opinions from within and outside Nigeria on how best to address our economic woes. We listened carefully and studied these proposals diligently. Our belief has always been that the quickest and easiest solution may not necessarily be the best solution for a nation as diverse as ours. We took our time to create a balanced and equitable response, keeping in mind that only tailored Nigerian solutions can fix Nigeria's unique problems. And from the recovery that we are seeing today, it is clear that we made the right decisions. Distinguished and honorable members of the National Assembly, I am now asking you to continue to support our economic policies in order to consolidate and sustain on the success achieved so far. We simply cannot go back. In the non-oil sector, crop production has been one of the main contributors to non-oil growth, which rose to 0.45% in the second quarter of this year. This was primarily driven by our ongoing financial capacity building and infrastructure development programs. Significant progress has also been made in the solid minerals development sector. In Ondo State, for instance, work is going on to fully exploit the bitumen resources to meet the 600,000 metric tons of asphalt imported per annum for roads and other construction projects. To consolidate on these efforts, we have also established a 30 billion naira solid minerals development fund to support other minerals exploitation activities across the country. In the oil and gas sector, the relatively higher crude oil prices supported our economic recovery. Our mutually beneficial engagement with oil-producing communities in the Niger Delta contributed immensely to the recovery in oil production experienced in recent months. We would like to thank the leadership and the communities in the Niger Delta for their continued support and to also reiterate our assurances that this administration will continue to honor our commitments to them. We cannot afford to go back to those dark days of insecurity and vandalism. We all want a country that is safe, stable, and secure for our families and communities. This means we must all come together to address any grievances through dialogue and peaceful engagement. Threats, intimidation, or violence are never the answer. We are working hard on the Ogoni Clean-Up Project. During the year, we engaged 8 international and local companies proposing different technologies for the mandate. To enable us select the best and most suitable technology for the remediation work, we ask each company to conduct demonstration clean-up exercise in the 4 local government areas of Ogoni land. These demonstrations were recently concluded, and the results are being studied by the Governing Council of the Ogoni Clean-Up Project. Although the project will be funded by the international oil companies, we have made provisions in the 2018 budget for the costs of oversight and governance to ensure effective implementation. On the international front, I would like to thank our friends and partners in the joint OPEC, non-OPEC Ministerial Monitoring Committee who graciously granted Nigeria an exemption from the output cuts imposed on OPEC member countries in January this year. This exemption, which was extended in September 2017, significantly helped during our most challenging time. We shall continue our positive engagement with other oil-producing nations to ensure that the momentum generated is sustained. Permit me, Mr. Senate President and Right Honorable Speaker, to state that despite the downturn in oil prices and our challenging economic circumstances, this administration was able to invest an unprecedented sum of over 1.2 trillion naira in capital projects through the 2016 budget. This is the highest ever in the history of this country. This is a clear demonstration. This is a clear demonstration of our commitment to consolidate on our economic diversification reforms and lay a stronger foundation for future growth and development. Our Sovereign Wealth Fund, which was established in 2011 with $1 billion United States dollars, did not receive additional investment in 4 years when oil prices were as high as 120 United States dollars per barrel. However, despite record low oil prices, this administration was able to invest an additional 500 million United dollars in the fund. This further demonstrates that in our struggle to have a stable and secure nation today, we have not and will not lose sight of the need to lay a solid foundation for the future prosperity of successive generations. We have asked the Sovereign Wealth Fund to look inward and invest locally. Some of the successes we are seeing today in the agricultural sector are driven by this new investment approach by the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. The Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority also has a very strong pipeline of local investments that will support our inclusive and diversified economic growth plan. Stability has been restored to the foreign exchange market due to the intervention by the Central Bank of Nigeria to improve access to liquidity, discourage currency speculation, and increase net foreign exchange inflows. As at the 30th of October 2017, our external reserves had increased to 34 billion United States dollars. This stability has supported our efforts to provide the enabling environment and interventions needed to empower micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, investors, manufacturers, and exporters to sustain and, in some cases, grow their operations. Indeed, by the second quarter of 2017, exports significantly outpaced imports, resulting in a trade surplus of 506.5 billion naira. One of the targets we set for gauging our progress in creating an enabling environment for business was to achieve a positive movement in the World Ease of Doing Business Index. You will recall Nigeria experienced a decade-long decline in their ranking in 2008. Nigeria was ranked 120th. By 2015, our situation had deteriorated to 169th of the 189 countries surveyed. Our very simple, logical, and user-friendly reform are reversing this trend. A recently released World Bank Business Ranking report announced that Nigeria has moved 24 places to 145th position in 2017. I am delighted that we have met and even surpassed our target of moving at least 20 places up this global ranking. The same World Bank report also stated that Nigeria is among the top 10 reforming countries in the world. To ensure these reforms are institutionalized, Executive Order Number 1 on the promotion of transparency and efficiency in the business environment was issued in May 2017. The order contained measures that ease the process of business registration, approval of permits, granting visas, and streamlining port operations. We are committed to continuing and accelerating the ease of doing business reforms, which are critical to attracting new investments, growing the economy, and creating jobs for our people. Although the economy is diversified, with non-oil sector accounting for over 90% of total nominal GDP, the government's revenue are not as diversified yet. Our tax to GDP ratio of about 6% is one of the lowest in the world. This situation is not consistent with our goal of having a diversified, sustainable, and all-inclusive economy. Accordingly, we are stepping up efforts to engage all taxable Nigerians, comply with the legal requirements to declare income from all sources and remit taxes due to the appropriate authorities. Already, we have introduced the voluntary assets and income declaration scheme on the 1st of July 2017. The scheme provides non-compliant taxpayers with a 9-month window to regularize their tax status relating to historical periods. In return, overdue interest and penalties will be forgiven. In addition, no investigations or criminal charges will be brought against participating taxpayers. We expect that this scheme will widen the tax net for both the federal and state governments. I am therefore asking all Nigerians to see this opportunity and to do the right thing. Let us not shy away from our duty to build a better Nigeria. In 2016, this administration adopted a policy of allocating at least 30% of our annual budget to capital expenditure. This was entrenched in the economic recovery and growth plan to unlock further growth in the economy. This tradition was maintained in the 2017 budget and has been reflected in the proposal for 2018, in which 30.8% of total expenditure has been set aside for the capital vote. To support these efforts, you would recall that an efficiency unit was set up under the Federal Ministry of Finance to reduce wastage, plug leakages, and foster greater fiscal transparency. We have intensified the implementation of the integrated payroll and personal information system across government, ministries, departments, and agencies to automate personal records and salaries payment processes with the goal of eliminating ghost workers. 461 federal ministries, departments, and agencies have been captured on the system so far. Our target is to enroll all ministry, departments, and agencies. I have directed the military and other security agencies to ensure total compliance without further delay. Mr. Senate President and the Right Honorable Speaker, we shall continue to develop our infrastructure across the country. Although a lot of progress has been made, the huge contractor liabilities we inherited have adversely impacted our infrastructure development timetable. Indeed, contractors were owed trillions of naira when this administration came into office. In some areas, we have made payments so projects may be completed, while in others, we are reconciling the liabilities to identify and settle legitimate claims. As a responsible and accountable administration, we decided that cleaning this backlog was an important priority. For instance, at the outset of this administration in 2015, The Abuja Metro Rail project, which began in 2007, was only 50% completed. After 8 years, today, in just 18 months, we have pushed the project to 98% completion. This was achieved as the Nigerian government was diligently able to meet its counter-funding obligations for the Chinese loans. We have also continued work on key strategic roads. Over 766 kilometers of roads were constructed or rehabilitated across the country in 2017. For instance, work is at various stages of completion on these strategic roads with immense socio-economic benefits. 1. Rehabilitation of Ilorin, Jebba, Mokwa, Birnin Gwari, Kaduna Road. B. Dualization of Oyo, Obomusho, Ilorin Road. C. Rehabilitation of Gombe, Numan, Yola Road. D. Dualization of Kano, Maiduguri Road. E. Rehabilitation of Sokoto, Tambuwal, Jega Road, and Kwantagora, Makera Road that traverse Sokoto, Kebbi, and Niger states. F. Rehabilitation and construction of Enugu-Port Harcourt Road. G. Rehabilitation of Enugu-Onitsha Dual Carriageway Road. H. Rehabilitation of Aleshi-Ugeb Road and the Iamo-Yun-Ugeb section in Cross River State. I. Rehabilitation, reconstruction, and expansion of Lagos-Ibadan Dual Carriageway Road. J. Construction of Loko-Oweto Bridge over River Benue in Nasarawa and Benue states. And K. Construction Gokoni Bridge along Tegina, Mokwa, Jebba Road in Niger State. Under the Federal Roads Development Program, we recently completed a data collection exercise on the 7,000-kilometer federal road network, which was funded by the World Bank. This information is enabling us to make informed decisions regarding the planning, budgeting, and management of the federal road network. Going forward, we will be working based on facts rather than subjectivity. Furthermore, we have also invested a lot of time and effort in identifying alternative means of funding new projects. For example, the recent 100 billion naira Sukuk financing will cater specifically for the development of 25 roads across the country. We also developed different structures that empower private investors to contribute to the development of roads of significant national importance. Already we are seeing results. For example, the Boni-Bodo Road is being jointly funded by the federal government and Nigerian LNG Limited. This project was conceived decades ago, but it was abandoned. This administration restarted the project, and when completed, it will enable road transportation access for key communications in Niger Delta region. And B, the Apapa Wharf Toll Gate Road in Lagos State is also being constructed by private sector investors in exchange for tax credits. Distinguished members of the National Assembly, our power sector reforms still remains a work in progress. Although we have increased generation capacity significantly, we still have challenges with the transmission and the distribution networks. That said, I am pleased to announce that since 2015, the Transmission Company of Nigeria and Niger Delta Power Holding Company have added 1,950 megawatts of 330 to 132 kV transformer capacity at 10 transition stations, as well as 2,930 MVA of 132 to 33 kV transformer capacity to 42 substations nationwide. With these additions, the transmission network today can handle up to 7,000 megawatts. The key bottleneck now is the distribution network, where the substations cannot take more than 5,000 megawatts. This is containing power delivery to consumers. We are working with the privatized distribution companies to see how to overcome this challenge. Nigerians should be rest assured that this administration is doing all it can to alleviate the embarrassing power situation in this country. Furthermore, to sustain the continued expansion of generation capacity and enhance evacuation, we approved a payment assurance guarantee scheme which enabled the Nigerian bulk electricity trader to raise 701 billion naira. This assures the generation company of up to 80% payment on their invoices. This intervention has brought confidence back into the sector, and we expect additional investment to flow through, particularly in the gas production sector. Distinguished members of the National Assembly, this administration is committed to the development of green alternative energy sources. To date, we have signed power purchase agreement with 14 solar companies. We also approved the completion of the 10 megawatts wind farm in Katsina State, a project that was abandoned since 2012, and B, the concession of 6 small hydroelectric power plants with a total capacity of 50 megawatts. To enable the successful take-up of these and future green projects, I am pleased to inform this distinguished assembly that the federal government will be launching the first African sovereign green bond in December 2017. The bond will be used to finance renewable energy projects. We are very excited about this development, as it will go a long way in solving many of our energy challenges, especially in the hinterland. On rail, we recently received 2 additional locomotives and 10 standard gauge coaches for the Abuja-Kaduna rail line. These will be deployed for the new non-stop express service between the 2 states that will only take 1 hour and 15 minutes. This new service will complement the existing service currently in place. We plan to commission this by December 2017. We have also kick-started the abandoned Itape-Ajakuta-Warri rail line. This project has been on for over 17 years. We had to take some drastic measures, but I am pleased to announce that work is going on, and we expect to commission this service by September 2018. This service will start with 7 standard gauge coaches. The situation at Apapa Port Complex is a top priority for this administration. The delays due to congestion and their adverse impact on business operations and costs is a key concern to our government. As I mentioned earlier, we are partnering with the private sector to fix the road. We shall do the right thing, considering we will not cut corners. In addition to the road, we have also commenced the extension of the Lagos-Ibadan standard gauge rail line to connect Apapa and Tinkan Island port complexes. This project will significantly ease the congestion at the ports and enhance both export and import operations. This project shall be completed by December 2018. Already, working with the private sector, we have prepared the Apapa Port narrow gauge line, which is currently being used to evacuate goods from the port, thereby easing congestion. As we all know, sometimes doing the right thing takes time and requires sacrifices. I am therefore appealing to all stakeholders to work with us in ensuring we deliver a solution that we will all be proud of. Certainly, the infrastructure requirements to reposition Nigeria for the future is huge, and our resources are limited. Government, therefore, will pursue private partnership to maximize available capital and development impact. In the next fiscal year, we will also establish 7 tertiary health institutions across the country through partnership with our Foreign Wealth Fund and other private sector investors. The agricultural sector played a crucial role in Nigeria's exit from recession. Today, it remains the largest employer of labor and holds significant potential to realize our position of repositioning Nigeria as a food-secured nation. We will consolidate on existing policies and develop new ones to ensure the numerous value chain challenges in the agricultural sector are addressed. As I mentioned earlier, several investors have developed significant capital in the production and processing of rice, sugar, maize, soya, cassava, yams, potato, oil palm, rubber and poultry, to mention a few. We are also seeing increased investment in the agro-input manufacturing sector, such as fertilizers. We are determined to protect these investments and encourage more. Food security is an important aspect of this administration's national security agenda. Any person involved in smuggling of food items is a threat to our national security and will therefore be dealt with accordingly. A committee chaired by the Vice President is working on this matter. A key part of their work will be the reactivation of the Badagry Agreement signed between Nigeria and the Republic of Benin in 2003. This agreement, which was abandoned by previous administrations, established a mutually beneficial framework for the two neighbors and tries and allies to partner in tackling smuggling and other cross-border crimes. I would like to assure investors in the agricultural value chain that the menace of smuggling will be handled decisively. Further support investors and state government. We will accelerate the establishment of at least 6 staple crop processing zones. In the first phase, this initiative will develop infrastructure for the production, processing, and storage of strategic commodities. The focus is on backward integration for grains, horticulture, livestock, fisheries, and sugar, as well as exportable commodities such as cocoa, cassava, and oil palm. During 2017, the country had a number of disease outbreaks such as meningitis, yellow fever, monkeypox, and Lassa fever. I would like to commend the federal and state Ministry of Health for their selfless service and timely responses to contain these outbreaks. I would also like to thank the World Health Organization, the Global Fund, and UNICEF for their continued support during these trying times. This collaboration was a key factor in the low mortality rates experienced. To further improve our response to such outbreaks, we are working to upgrade our integrated disease surveillance and response system. This will further enhance the efficiency of our diagnostic and clinical management processes. In this respect, I urge this distinguished House to expedite the passage of the bill for the Nigerian Center for Disease Control to enable us to consolidate on the successes recorded to date. I am pleased to inform you that we have recorded tremendous success in the implementation of the federal government social investment program, especially over 4.5 million primary 1 to primary 3 pupils in public schools are being fed under the school feeding program. Over 200,000 unemployed graduates have been employed under the N-Power scheme in education, health, and agricultural sectors. Over 250,000 enterprises have benefited from the sum of 12.5 billion naira, which has been distributed to entrepreneurs to expand their businesses. And over 110,000 households are currently benefiting from the conditional cash transfer program across the country. The 2017 budget of recovery and growth was based on a benchmark oil price of $44.5 United States dollars per barrel, oil production of 2.2 million barrels per day, and a Naira to United States dollar exchange rate of 305. Based on these assumptions and total revenue of 5.084 trillion naira was projected to fund aggregate expenditure of 7.441 trillion naira. A projected fiscal deficit of 2.356 trillion naira was to be financed mainly by domestic and external borrowing. One revenue performance: collections were 14% below target as of September 2017, mainly due to the shortfall in non-oil reserves. A key revenue shortfall was from independent revenues. Only 155.14 billion naira was remitted by September 2017, as against the projected pro-rate sum of 605.87 billion naira. This represents a 74% shortfall which is very disappointing. This recurring issue of under-remittance of operating surpluses by state-owned entities is absolutely unacceptable. You will all recall that in September 2017, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board announced that they were ready to remit 7.8 billion naira back to the government. The shocking discovery was that in the last decade, JAMB only remitted only aggregate of 51 million naira. This clearly illustrates the abuses that occur in state-owned entities, as well as their potentials for increased independent revenues. If only people would do the right thing. We all need to play our role to ensure the right thing is done. I would also like to remind Nigerians that the whistleblower lines are still open. Accordingly, I have directed the economic management team to review the fiscal profiles of these agencies to ensure strict compliance with applicable executive orders and financial regulation. There may be a need to consider a review of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, and the executive will be approaching the National Assembly on this issue in due course. On the expenditure side, a total of 450 billion naira of the capital vote had been released as at the end of October 2017. With your support for our funding plan, our target is to release up to 50% of the capital vote for ministries, departments, and agencies by the year's end. We have prioritized payments of our counterpart obligations on our concessionary loans, as well as funding of critical infrastructure and other projects with socio-economic benefits. Furthermore, ministries, departments, and agencies have made provisions to carry over to 2018 capital projects that are not likely to be fully funded by the end of the year 2017 to ensure project continuity. Regrettably, the late passage of the 2017 budget has significantly constrained budget implementation. As you are aware, the 1999 Constitution authorized necessary federal government expenditure period to the 12th of June 2017, when the 2017 Appropriation Act was signed into law. This year, we have worked very hard to achieve an earlier submission of the medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper and the 2018 appropriation bill. Our efforts were to avail the National Assembly with sufficient time to perform its important duty of passing the appropriation bill into law, hopefully by the 1st of January 2018. It is in this spirit that I solicit the cooperation It is in this spirit that I solicit the cooperation of the legislature in our efforts to return to a more predictable budget cycle that runs from January to December. The 2014-18 budget proposal are for the budget of consolidation. Our principal objective will be to reinforce and build our recent accomplishments. Specifically, we will sustain the reflationary policies of our past two budgets. In this regard, the key parameters and assumptions for the 2018 budget are as set out in the 2018 to 2020 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper. These include benchmark oil price of United States $45 per barrel, oil production estimate of 2.3 million barrels per day, including condensate. C, exchange rate of 305 naira to United States dollar for 2018. D, real GDP growth of 3.5%, and E, inflation rate of 12.4%. Based on the above fiscal assumptions and parameters, total federally collectible revenue is estimated at 11.98 trillion naira in 2018, such that the three tiers of government shall receive about 12% more revenue in 2018 than the 2017 estimate. Of the amount, the sum of 6.387 trillion naira is expected to be realized from oil and gas sources. Total receipts from the non-oil sector are projected at 5.597 trillion naira. The federal government's estimated total revenue is 6.607 trillion naira in 2018, which is about 30% more than the 2017 target. As we pursue our goal of revenue diversification, non-oil revenues will become a larger share of total revenues. In 2018, we project our oil revenues of 2.442 trillion naira and non-oil as well as other revenues of 4.165 trillion naira. Non-oil and other revenues resources of 4.165 trillion naira include several items, including share of companies' income tax of several hundred and 9.427 billion naira, share of value-added tax of 207.9 billion naira, customs and excise receipts of 324.9 billion naira, federal government independent generated revenue of 847.9 billion naira, federal government share of tax amnesty income of 87.8 billion naira, and various recoveries of 512.4 billion naira, 710 billion naira as proceeds from the restructuring of government's equity in joint ventures and other sundry income of 678.4 billion naira. A total expenditure of 8.612 trillion naira is proposed for 2018. This is a nominal increase of 16% above the 2017 budget estimate. In keeping with our policy, 30.8% of 2.652 trillion naira of aggregate expenditure, inclusive of capital and statutory transfers, has been allocated to the capital project, we expect our fiscal operations to result in a deficit of 2.005 trillion naira, or 1.77% of GDP. This reduction is in line with our plans under economic recovery and growth plan to progressively reduce deficit and borrowings. We plan to finance the deficit partly by new borrowings estimated at 1.699 trillion naira. 50% of this borrowing will be sourced externally, while the balance will be sourced domestically. The balance of the deficit of 306 billion naira is to be financed from proceeds of privatization of some non-oil assets by the Bureau of Public Enterprises. The proposed 8.612 trillion naira of 2018 aggregate expenditure comprises a recurrent cost of 3.494 trillion naira, debt service of 2.014 trillion naira, C, statutory transfer of about 456 billion naira, D, sinking fund of 220 billion naira to retire maturing bond to local contractors, E, capital expenditure of 204.28 trillion naira, excluding the capital component of statutory transfers. 456.46 billion naira was provided in the 2018 budget for statutory transfers. The 5% increase over last year's provision is mainly due to increases in transfer to Niger Delta Development Commission and the Universal Basic Education Commission, which are related directly to the size of oil revenue. We are closely monitoring our debt service to revenue ratio. We shall address this ratio through our non-oil revenue generating drive and restructuring of the existing debt portfolio. Presently, domestic debt accounts for about 79% of the total debt. Our medium-term strategy is to reduce the proportion of our domestic debt to 60% by the end of 2019 and increase external debt to 40%. It is noteworthy that rebalancing our debt portfolio will enhance private sector access to domestic credit. In addition, annual debt service costs will reduce as external debts are serviced at lower rates and repaid over a longer period than domestic debt. A substantial part of the recurrent cost proposal for 2018 is the payment of salaries and overheads in key ministries, providing critical public services such as 510.87 billion naira for interior, B, 425.01 billion naira for education, C, 422.43 billion for defense, and D, 269.34 billion naira for health. The allocation for these ministries represent significant increases over votes in previous budgets. Personnel costs in projected to rise by 12% in 2018. Although we have made substantial savings by registering ministries, departments, and agencies on the Integrated Personal Payroll Information System platform, the increase is mainly due to provision for staff promotion areas and recruitment by the military, police, force, and paramilitary agencies. Furthermore, I have directed agencies are not to embark on any fresh recruitment unless they have obtained all the requisite approvals. Any breach of this directive will be severely sanctioned. Overhead costs is projected to rise by 26 billion naira in 2018, a total increase of about 12%, reflecting inflationary adjustments. Ministries, departments, and agencies are required to adhere to government regulation. To consolidate on momentum of 2017 budget's implementation, many ongoing capital projects have been provided for the 2018 budget. This is in line with our commitment to appropriate fund ongoing capital projects to completion. By allocating 30.8% of the 2018 budget to capital expenditure, the federal government is also demonstrating its strong commitment to investing in critical infrastructure capable of spurring growth and creating jobs in Nigerian economy. Key capital spending allocation in 2018 budget are: A. Power, Works and Housing, 555.88 billion naira. Transportation, 263.1 billion naira. C. Social intervention programs, 150 billion naira. D. Defense, 145 billion naira. E. Agriculture and rural development, 118.98 billion naira. F. Water resources, 95.11 billion naira. G. Industry, trade and investment, 82.92 billion naira. H. Interior, 63.26 billion naira. I. Education, 61.73 billion naira. J. Universal Basic Education Commission, 109.06 billion naira. K. Health, 71.11 billion naira. Federal Capital Territory, 40.3 billion naira. M. Zonal Intervention Project, 100 billion naira. N. Northeast Intervention Fund, 45 billion naira. O. Niger Delta Ministry, 53.8 billion naira. P. Niger Delta Development Commission, 71.2 billion naira. As I had previously indicated, we aim to consolidate on our achievement in 2017. We shall meet our counterpart funding obligations. We shall complete all ongoing projects, and we shall carry forward all strategic projects that were budgeted for but which were unable to kick start due to liquidity challenges. Later passages of the budget prolonged contractual negotiations, and other matters. Specifically, I would like to bring your attention to the following key projects and programs that are determined to implement in 2018. A 9.8 billion naira for Mambila hydropower project, including 8.5 billion as counter funding. B 20 billion naira counter funding for earmarked transmission lines and substation. C 35.4 billion naira for the National Housing Program. D 10 billion naira for the second Niger Bridge. And E about 300 billion naira for the construction and the rehabilitation of the strategic roads mentioned earlier. This administration remains committed to pursuing agenda-sensitive, pro-poor, and inclusive growth. We are keenly interested in catering for the most vulnerable. Accordingly, we have retained the 500 billion naira allocation to the Social Intervention Program. Under the program, 100 billion naira has been set aside for the Social Housing Program. The government is also continue to implement the coordinated cash transfer program as well as the National Homegrown School Feeding Program in 2018. These initiatives are already creating jobs and economic opportunity for local farmers and cooks, providing funding to artisans, traders, and youth, as well as supporting small businesses with business education and machining. To maintain peace and security in the Niger Delta, for economic and social activities to strive, the provision of 65 billion naira for the Presidential Amnesty Program has been retained in the 2018 budget. In addition, the capital provision for the Ministry of Niger Delta has been increased to 53.89 billion naira for the 34.2 billion naira. This is to further support the development in the region. We will complete all critical projects, including the East-West Road, which has a provision of about 17.34 billion naira. Across the nation, and particularly in the Northeast region, our commitment to the security of life and property remains absolute. We will ensure that our gallant men and women in arms and property are properly equipped and well motivated. The result of our efforts is evident in the gradual return to normalcy in the Northeast. It is in this spirit that I recently assessed to the Northeast Development Commission bill, which was passed by this distinguished House. We expect that this development will consolidate on our ongoing efforts to combat insurgency, reinstate internal displaced persons, and rebuild communities in the Northeast region, which has been adversely affected by the insurgency. Similar attention is being given to efforts to reduce violent crime across the country. The Nigerian Army was recently deployed to combat the growing scourge of cattle rustling and banditry that have plagued our communities in Kaduna, Niger, Kebbi, Katsina, and Zamfara states. We will also continue to arrest the incidents of armed robbery, kidnapping, and other violent crimes across the nation. We have also increased our focus on cyber crimes and the abuse of technology through hate speech and other divisive material that is being propagated on social media, while we uphold the constitutional rights of our people to freedom of expression and association, where the purported exercise of these rights infringe on the liberties of other citizens or threaten to undermine our national security, we will take firm and decisive action. In this regard, I reiterate my call for Nigerians to exercise restraint, tolerance, and mutual respect in airing any grievances and frustrations. While the ongoing national discourse on various political issues is healthy and welcome, we must not forget the lessons of our past. I trust that the vast majority of our people will rather tread the path of peace and prosperity as we continue to uphold and cherish our unity in diversity. Distinguished and honorable members of the National Assembly, you will recall that in my 2017 budget speech, I promised a new era for Nigeria and to the old ways of over-dependence on oil revenues. The statistics and the initiatives I mentioned earlier show that this new era has come and the old Nigeria is surely disappearing. We must therefore all work together to protect and sustain this change to create a new Nigeria, a Nigeria that feeds itself, a Nigeria that ultimately utilizes its resources, a Nigeria with a diversified, sustainable, and inclusive economy. Mr. President of the Senate, Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable members of the National Assembly, this speech would be incomplete without commending the immense patriotic and collaborative support of the National Assembly in the effort to move our great nation forward. I wish to assure you of the strong commitment of the executive branch to deepen the relationship with the legislature. Nigeria is emerging from a very difficult economic period. If we all cooperate and support one another, we can consolidate on our exit from the recession and firmly position Nigeria for economic prosperity. All the projects presented within this budget have been carefully selected and subjected to extensive consultations and stakeholder engagement. As a government, we are determined to bring succor to our people, improve their lives, and deliver on our promises to them. 2018 is a crucial year as we survive to ensure that we consolidate our successes and institutionalize the policies and practices that drove this about. I appeal to you to swiftly consider and pass the 2018 appropriation bill. It is therefore with great pleasure and a deep sense of responsibility that I lay before you this distinguished joint session of the National Assembly, the 2018 budget proposal of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I thank you most sincerely for your attention. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
That is the laying of the 2018 budget proposal by President Muhammadu Buhari. Well, the budget, it's being received by members of the National Assembly with strong sense of nationalism and patriotism. As the President urged them to ensure the quick passage of this budget, which has been tagged Budget of Consolidation.